Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. I hope you're doing well today. It is March 22nd, 2020. Now, a person posted a question a couple days ago, and I thought I'd answer the question, but then they reposted it, and I'll try to answer it a little bit better. But it got me thinking, and I'm surprised I haven't thought about this before, but I've never really made a formal invitation for people to ask me questions. So from now on, I'm going to be doing that. And you can ask me a question in a couple different ways. You can either post it as a comment on a video, and then usually typically what I'll do is the next video I'll answer it in some kind of way, or try to answer it as best I can, or whatever, or in this case, not answer it at all. And then I usually just respond to that comment and say, hey, look, just if you want to hear my answer, you can just listen to this video, kind of thing, right? Or you can email me directly, which I'll start putting the email in every one of the descriptions of my videos. If that's easier or better for you, you can do it that way. So at the beginning of each one of my videos, I'll start offering that as an option if you want to do that. So this person's question was, will Maitreya come on the day of the Universal Declaration 2020? Like I said, I thought I'd answered it, but he or she, I don't know who it was, reposted the question. And it was basically like, when they reposted the question, it was more of, will Maitreya declare himself before the world on the day of declaration this year in 2020? Maitreya, I can't answer that question, really. But the only thing I can answer is Maitreya is the only one that knows the answer to that question. Now, the masters don't see time the way that we see time. So today is Sunday that I'm recording this video. I know tomorrow is Monday, right? So I have to deal with Monday, and that's in the future, right? And then yesterday was the past, right? Which is Saturday, right? And then Friday and whatever. The masters don't see time like that. They see it all. They see the past, the present, and the future all happening as one event. So Maitreya, in Maitreya's or any master's mind, the day of declaration has already happened. It's happening and will happen. So it's the way they see it. Now, it's a guarantee that it will happen. From our point of view, it's a guarantee. Maitreya will be out on TV at some point on the day of declaration. And I put up a video about what the day of declaration is, and it's in one of the playlists if you want to know more about that, or you can read it, through Benjamin Creme's. It's probably better to read it on Share National's webpage. But anyway, it's the day that Maitreya comes out and actually declares himself before the world as Maitreya. Anyway, so he's the only one that would know that answer. If you were going to ask Gary that question, what does Gary think? Gary thinks that it's not long now before Maitreya declares himself before the world. But it depends on us, really. It depends on our reaction. The two great laws that govern humanity, and the masters and Maitreya will be teaching us how to live within all the laws that govern humanity. But the two big ones, the law of cause and effect, right? The law of karma, the law of, like all the great teachers throughout history, Jesus, the Buddha, Muhammad, Krishna, even writers like Shakespeare, actually, were teaching us or trying to teach us how to live within that law. And it all comes down to harmlessness. The law of cause and effect is what you put out, you get back. Jesus said it very simply, what you sow, so shall you reap. So if you are a farmer and you plant corn, well, guess what? You're going to get corn. You're not going to get wheat. You're not going to get a banana tree. You're going to get corn, right? So if you plant the seed of violence, well, guess what? You're going to get violence back. If you plant the seeds of distrust, well, guess what? You're going to get distrust back, And it's like it's a law, really. And so nations will eventually have to live within that law and know to live within that law, because if they don't, harm will come back to their country. So it's, same thing with us individually. We'll have to live within that law. And the masters will demonstrate how to live within that law too. Not only teach us, but they live within that law perfectly. So that's what makes them masters. They don't create personal karma for themselves the way that we do. Every time we're driving and we cuss at somebody and flip them off and, God, I wish you'd go off a cliff, right? That's all karma coming back to us, actually. You know what I'm saying? Believe me. And so we have to live within that law. The other law, the law of rebirth, is I wanted to kind of touch on this is kind of a subset of that is we think of reincarnation individually, right? Like if you believe in reincarnation, right? Like I live this life and then eventually I pass away and eventually I'll come back. And if you're a hardcore Christian, guess what? It's in your Bible. So, we can talk about that at a later date. I don't really want to get into that now, but we don't incarnate individually. We actually incarnate in groups, small groups, family groups, larger groups, even entire generational groups incarnate together. And the universal law is that within each generation that is born, that generation has the experience, the wherewithal, the knowledge, the capability of handling the problems that it will face throughout the lifespan of that generation. Same thing with us individually, right? Anytime something comes our way, it's a universal law. We actually have the ability and the know-how and the knowledge to handle that problem. Even if it seems insurmountable, we have the ability to do that. That's why Maitreya says suicide's always a bad option, because you have the ability to handle whatever problem, whether you feel overwhelmed by it or not. But two, you're also just delaying what you're supposed to be learning anyway. So eventually you have to learn it again. So you'll have to, that whatever that lesson is that we're learning, oh my God, there's no way. And we all feel like overwhelmed from time to time, right? But like with this crisis, right, that's facing every single person on this planet, we have the ability to handle it because that's why we're here, And I think, just a little side note, I think that when we look back, when our children and children's children, our grandchildren and so forth, great-grandchildren, look back at this time, we will be viewed as the generation of choice. We will be the one that within our hands is the future. And it will be very, 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 very clear what the choice is. We either have a future for our family and our children and our children's children, or we won't. What happened this month, or over the past few months or whatever like this with this virus, right? But it's really kind of starting for everybody, all around the world this month, right? Over the last few weeks. When we come out of this, whether it's the virus itself or the economic crisis that we're really facing and about to really, really face, the way that we could either A, go back to the way that we were living before, which is a dead end, really, or we can change our ways and have a future. And so Maitreya puts it very, very simply. Without sharing, there could be no justice. Without justice, there could be no peace. Without peace, there could be no future. Now, Maitreya knows that within the hearts of all of us is the longing, the desire for unity, the desire for peace, which is peace. So he already knows that we're going to make the right choice. We don't know right now. It's still an uncertainty, right? Now, the one thing I do want to say, just a little observation that I've made, is the master DK said that goodwill is the lowest aspect of love, and that eventually nations will start to exhibit goodwill toward one another. But even goodwill on an individual level too, right? We'll start to have more of a sense of that. It's the lowest aspect of love, It's not gushy. It's not the way my grandmother would do it, where she'd just kiss me, like, get away from me, grandma. It's just goodwill. We're doing, you're thinking about somebody else a little bit more than you maybe would have, right? And taking care of them a little bit more than you would have, right? It's not much. It's not perfect. It's not the way the masters do it, but, they're doing it on a higher level. But it's the lowest aspect of love. Now, a little observation that I noticed is, one, when I've had to go into a store, a lot of times people will just hold the door for me. And I know they're not doing it to be polite or to be nice. They're doing it out of consideration so I don't have to touch the door. And I've said to them, oh, you're very kind, thank you. And then there was an instance yesterday, I was walking down the sidewalk, and there was a young man who was standing next to his bike, and he was getting ready to cross the street. And he looked at me, and he turned his bike. He took the time to turn his bike sideways so I could walk, on the sidewalk and not have to walk on the grass. And I stepped on the grass anyway. I said, "Thank you for that." I said, "You're very kind." And I use that phrase a lot. You're very kind. When somebody does something kind, I was like, "Yeah, you're very kind." But I've said that phrase more in the last week, more than I've ever said in any week in my entire life, because people are actually doing kind things. It's goodwill. These are just little things, but I'm starting to see a little bit more goodwill because of this crisis. And I was worried at first, oh my gosh, is this going to be, people pulling out guns, and there's going to be riots in the streets? Well, there have been no riots in the streets. There have been people fighting over toilet paper, but that's, it's not the norm, you know what I mean? But I've seen more goodwill, and I'm hoping that this will bring about more of a sense of goodwill toward and community toward one another, And I've even been more of, going from neighbor to neighbor. Hey, if you need anything, if you do get sick, if you do have to confine yourself and I'm not, let me know. I can run to the store for you, blah, 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 And they've said the same thing to me. Whatever you need, help, And believe me, a month ago, we didn't have those kind of conversations with one another. So I'm hoping that this year, 2020, is going to be the year for change, when we actually start to come together as a people, Now, I want to leave us with one of Benjamin Creme's master's articles, and it talks about choice. And it's entitled "The Choice is Man's." And it was published in Share International in November of 1997. And again, I want to leave you with this, take care of yourself, look after one another, and love one another. The choice is man's. The importance of being alive at this time is that it provides to all the opportunity to serve the plan and the planet as never before. No one today should feel excluded from this unique opportunity, however humble or restricted their circumstances. The planet belongs to all, and the plan involves all. More and more, the planet's precarious state of imbalance, created by man's misuse, sounds a warning note which men ignore at their peril. The very breath by which men live is threatened. The air, polluted and poisoned, wreaks havoc on the lives of many millions. Into this crisis has come Maitreya. He knows the dangers better than any man. What can he do to help men save themselves from further suffering, and to restore the planet to full and vibrant health? The karmic law controls the nature and the scope of the aid that he may give. Advice and guidance will be men's for the asking, but men must be prepared to change the present modes of living to ensure the planet's future and the future of their children. The resources of the earth are finite, but with good husbandry and sharing, adequate for the needs of all. Men must therefore redefine these needs and enter into a new and truer understanding of the meaning and the purpose of their lives. This will come when a measure, even of sharing, has replaced the present destructive competition and led man away from the precipice edge. The choice is man's, to share and flourish, or to continue in deadly competition and together die. That men will choose the way of life is no doubt. The hearts of men, when tested, are found ever to be sound. Thus will men be readied for the next phase of the plan, the establishment of right human relationships, the expression through men of the love nature of God. Many today doubt that such an ideal is capable of fulfillment, given the manifested selfishness and greed of humanity today. Nevertheless, we know that within the hearts of all men burns the same aspiration for justice and brotherhood, the same hope of ending the fear that underlies the selfishness and greed. We, your elder brothers, have known that that same greed, that same selfish desire and fear, that we have conquered is the guarantee that all men can do the same. We do not doubt, we know that men will rise to the test and triumph. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.